Hey there, welcome to LearnPianoLive.com. This is an advanced lesson. So this is for students who are known by their friends as a pianist. You've got hopefully some knowledge of chords, maybe some sheet music reading, some sight reading skills, you know chords. You've been playing enough to impress almost all of your friends with your piano skills. So if that's you, you're in the right place. If you're in the lesson and it feels way too advanced, you might want to go check out yesterday's lesson, the intermediate version of this week's topic, or the lesson before that, the beginner's lesson, because those will break down the same concepts, only easier. So, but if you are an advanced student, then ask away. No question is too advanced or too obscure. So this is just all about you. You got to ask me the questions so I know what to answer and know how to help you out best. There's a couple other things I want to talk to you about too before this countdown clock gets to 0. All right, first and most important, ask a lot of questions. The way that you're going to do that is there's a couple different ways. You can jump in the chat room and talk with the other students who are logged in at the same time. I'll be watching the chat room too. You can ask your questions there. Or if it's a question that's just for me, a question about the lesson, especially if you know it's one that's going to fit best at the question and answer time at the end, then you can just put your name and your question in the box below this video, click submit, and then I will get that. Now, if you're already in the archives, if you're watching this not live, but you're watching this in the archives, then make sure at the end of the lesson you click on the survey button. You don't have to fill out the entire survey. If you want to, I mean, I'd love your feedback, but really the best part of that is that you can put your question in there, and then when you click submit, then I will get all of your questions. I'll make sure that you get them answered, whether you're in the archives or you're live. Right next to this video, there should be a PDF button and an MP3 button. Now, you don't really need those till after the lesson because I'm going to be showing you on screen the PDF and showing you how to use it. And I'll play the MP3 during the lesson too, so you know at the end of the lesson how you're going to use that. Some people, though, like to print out the PDF ahead of time, so as I'm making notes on my version, they can make the same notes on their version, but works either way. All right, this is perhaps the most important part. You need to leave the lesson when you feel like you're sufficiently challenged. So, I'm teaching these lessons, 12 to 15 lessons a month. Normally in traditional lessons, you're getting like a lesson every other week or so. So this is just way too much for you to take in. So, the goal is for you to get some little nugget of something that you can really practice on, really work on. Once you feel like you have that, then you really don't need anything else from me. Go practice. That's where this stuff is really gonna happen. You're not going to get through this lesson and be able to play something really well. You're going to get through this lesson and have the information that you need to practice more effectively. That's really the goal here. So don't feel bad about taking off early. If you feel like halfway through the lesson you got as much as you can take in at that time, then go practice that thing, and then come back whenever you've got that thing down, or you're bored with it, or you just want to check out the next topic. Don't forget also that you've got the archives too. So if you want to see one little thing, just repeat it over and over and over. Just give me, hopefully within 24 hours after the lesson, this thing will be up in the archive, so you can just go back and watch it over and over and over and over and just get that little segment down.
Good morning, wherever you might be. My name is Reggie Graham, and I'm here to give you a live lesson on jazz today. So I guess I'll play a little something first, and then we can start the lesson. Gotta get used to this piano.
That's awesome. Thank you. So as you guys know, Reggie Graham is not only a college instructor, he runs the piano lab, and he's a great pianist, obviously, and an all-around great guy. So I want to thank you, Reggie, again for joining us today. We've got a lot of questions from you guys from the archives, who watch the lessons in the archives. So we'll get to those first, and then you live students go ahead and fire away your questions in the chat room, and I will try to, as much as possible, clump those together so we're respectful of Professor Graham's time, and also get all of your questions in. So let's start here with question number 1. How would you define a gospel piano? Yikes. Good luck.
A gospel piano or pianist?
Oh, nice. Let's try either one or both.
Okay. Well, let's start with the pianist. A gospel pianist is someone that plays piano and plays religious music, but specifically in a gospel style. There's about 3 or 4 styles of gospel piano: contemporary, traditional, and jazz gospel. And I guess a lot of people say I played gospel jazz, but I don't really think that I do, but you know, I do in a way. Traditional gospel was just, you know, basically playing stuff that it's really categorized by that kind of a sound from Thomas Dorsey, the man that's the father of gospel music, who, by the way, was not allowed to play his music in church when he came up because they said it was too worldly. Wow. And then there's contemporary gospel, which would be something, you know, like, let's see.
Real quick, before you jump into the contemporary thing, can you talk more about the breakdown of what you're doing to create that sound?
Okay, so traditional gospel, you've used a lot of root chords. So that started out in C. I went up to the 3rd, F in root position, G, and then we usually have like a 2-5-1. That's how I do it anyway. But yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what the chords are in that song. This is called I Don't Feel No Ways Tired. So straight root chords, that's pretty much the sound that you're going to get. Yeah, okay. And then you add this chord, it's a E7, sharp 9. And a lot of gospel players probably don't know this name of this chord, but that's what it is. Then you go to A minor. Let's see. What is it? There it is. It's pretty much all straight open major chords.
Yeah. So then what is it that makes the contemporary sound different?
You're using more kind of a jazz bass type chords. Depending on the type of, you know, there's been a new movement in what they call praise and worship songs that are like still, and it's kind of root sounding, but they use the same chords over and over, over and over. So for contemporary gospel versus contemporary praise, contemporary gospel will be like, let's see. Let's see if I can remember the song. I'm blowing it. I can't remember the name of the song. But here we have the same thing moving up by the root to a third. Then you hear a chord that's more like a. You would not hear that in traditional gospel.
Right. So more like an alt sound and more extensions and stuff.
Yeah. So instead of going like, it would, in traditional gospel, it would probably went versus going.
Right.
And then usually this type of movement where you're chromatic to the two, and it would probably be voiced like something like that.
Yeah.
We would call the upper structure chords that are actually, so we would have like a.
So would it be fair to say that as gospel music, I'm saying progress, I guess, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
as it goes on further, it becomes more and more, merges more and more with jazz type?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. There's a guy named Ty Tribbett, and his music is so complicated and so involved that it's almost impossible for a church musician to play it by himself.
Huh.
Almost impossible.
Wow.
What's happened, and it's happened before and it's happening again, the music is moving more towards what people listen to on the radio.
Right.
And that music is hard to play for a regular church musician.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, that was a lot of time on that question. Thank you for the answer. I'm going to kind of rapid fire the rest of these here, so we can.
I'll try to answer quick.
All right. What's the most important quality to have as a music teacher? What's the most important thing you want to see in a music teacher?
I think the most important thing is that you are able to clearly articulate the subject matter, and you have a definitely excellent base of what the subject matter might be.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to teach as a instructor?
Probably MIDI.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
I like teaching jazz improv too. I've taught it for 10, 12 years now. There's a lot of work. A lot of people come into the class. They think they're going to be in the class. They don't even know how to play.
Yeah.
And so I have to let them know they can't be in the class unless they can play.
Right, right. Yeah, I've got some questions here from, looks like people who are in high school or are planning to major in jazz piano. So I've got some questions here. I'll kind of bundle them all together and let you answer however you want. What's one thing you wish you never had to see again with your freshman pianists, or what's the most important thing to do to prepare to go into college as a jazz piano major?
Well, at the very bottom of the list is you need to know all of your major scales, all of your major chords, all your minor scales, all your minor chords, and then up from there, all your seventh chords. You need to know all of that stuff. Just know it flat. And if possible, then from there, start learning how to play songs. I think you should be well versed as a reader. I'm not a great reader. I'll be honest with you. I have to pragmatically go through music. I got through college with A's in piano by just killing myself. But, you know, it would be helpful if you were a great sight reader, but it's not mandatory if you have the drive to learn music.
Right, right. So one of these questions is, what are you currently working on improving? Would sight reading fall into that, or I don't know. What do you think?
That's what I should be doing, working on improving sight reading. I'm working on it slowly but surely. But more for me, at this age, I work on my chops. I work on improving playing.
Yeah, what's the most practical skill, I guess, if you just had to do one thing? If it was, you know, drop twos or A-B voicings, or what's the most commonly used thing? Most useful tool?
The voicing thing is, yeah, that's interesting. You should ask that. I don't know all the different voicing techniques. What I use is rootless chords. I use so what chords. I use, that's pretty much it. But I have in my vocabulary fourth chords, like what Koitiner.
Yeah, can you explain that? Fourth chords?
Well, basically, if you're playing 2-5-1, you can play the 2-5-1 and put a fourth voicing on top of it. So you have a, let's see, or just a fourth on top.
Right.
That's pretty much how I use it. And then as far as soloing or playing songs, I'll use the song I just played.
I'm sorry, can you go back and do that again? That's awesome. I'm totally going to steal that. Forget the students right now. Teach me.
This is, so you got D minor 7, and instead of going, you just go up. It's just chromatic movement.
Cool. Yeah. I'm totally going to check that out in the archives. Thank you.
All right. Not a problem. No charge for that. For like Autumn Leaves, if so I'm playing that, the bass player's playing. I may just go. As long as the bass player can keep his place without me playing the chords, I'll play anything on my left hand that I feel that works for me. So
yeah,
that's one way of using fourth chords. Is there a rhyme or reason? Not really to me, but basically I'm playing, if I'm playing here, that's kind of the sound, for whatever lack of a...
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's very useful stuff. Next question here, moving right along. What's the best advice you ever received as a musician?
Learn how to play the melody. I was playing music early in my career, and I just couldn't get it together. I played vertically off chords. I didn't think about learning how to solo off of the melody, and what it did, it made me very chord conscious. Every chord, I was trying to relate my solo to that chord. And a drummer named Jimmy Robinson told me, he says, I solo off of the melody. And I was like, how do you do that on the drums? He says, I play the melody on the drums. And so I started learning the melody. So that was the groundbreaking change for me.
Wow. Yeah, all right. Cool. What motivated you to practice when you first started out, or when you first started getting serious about piano?
Wanting to be much better. There was a guy that, there was two brothers, and they were awesome players, and they played. You know what that is, right? Giant steps.
Yeah, okay.
So that was one of the things that motivated me. I said, I really would like to be able to play that like that.
Right.
So that, watching other players, coming home, I went and seen the Lincoln Orchestra Jazz Band when they came to town years ago. And when I left that, I said, I have two choices. I can go home and quit playing, or go home and practice. So I went home and practiced.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments of either great inspiration or deep depression.
Exactly.
One of the two. But cool. Just a couple more questions here, and then we'll let you go. Who is your most important in-person influence? So I guess someone you knew face to face.
Oh man. Most important. Well, there's. I'd say, as far as musicians go, Jimmy Robinson was probably a big influence on me, even though he probably doesn't know it. But when I moved to the Bay Area, he always came to the Bay Area and took me to Keystone Corner, introduced me to Max Roach, a whole mass of jazz players that came and played at Keystone Corners, which is now closed. Huh. And I think I talked to him. His hope for me was to become a jazz musician, but at that time I needed to make money. So therefore I ended up playing and touring with groups that weren't jazz. And so I think he was a big influence on my musicianship and learning to play correctly and really learning how to play.
Huh.
I came up with old school with those guys, and they would say, hey, you need to go home and practice. Don't come back till you know the chords. Come back. So yeah, he was probably my biggest influence in terms of playing.
Yeah, so you're saying you went and you were watching Max Roach.
Yeah, I was backstage with Max Roach, Reggie Workman, Cedar Walton, a those kind of guys were the people that he knew.
Yeah. Wow.
So whenever there was a concert, he would he'd say, "Hey, come on down to Keystone Corner. I want you to meet these guys." So
Wow.
it's kind of cool.
Wow.
And you know, it's funny. I met a lot of people, and some of them I don't even remember their names or who they were. So
Yeah.
that happens when you start getting older and you start looking back. You can see their face, but you're not sure who they are.
Right. Right. So two last questions here. What about your most important non-in-person influence? Who would you say you most sound like or has most influenced your playing, whether or not you've met them?
I don't think I sound like him, but I really like Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock is.
Anything in particular about his playing? I mean, there's so much like, but what for you?
He is. I don't know. To me, he's just. He's very, very. He seems very relaxed when he's playing. First of all, and he flows. Just plays very well, excellently well to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's not. I mean, I love a lot of Gene Harris. I didn't even know who Gene Harris was until 3 or 4 people said, you sound like Gene Harris. You sound like Gene. Who is Gene Harris?
Right.
So I went and looked him up, and I said, wow, I do sound like Gene Harris. But not totally, but I do have a lot of his little bluesy licks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
So last question here. If you could interview any one pianist in the world, who would it be, aside from Herbie Hancock?
Interview like we're doing right now?
Sure, or just, I guess, who would you like to meet, or who would you like to pick their brain?
I don't know. Probably the Japanese girl. I can't say her name right now. She's kind of tiny, but she's like the 8th wonder of the world in terms of piano. Have you heard her? You know what I'm talking about? Oh man, I wish I could say her name. I don't want to try to say the wrong name.
That's all right. I can put a link up to her after it would put it in the show notes and stuff.
Yeah, she would be interesting just to interview. I don't know. I've never Googled her to see what her history was, how she started, but I'm pretty sure she came out of the classical tradition.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, obviously there's so much more that you have that you could share with us, but I appreciate you making the time to be with us today. And for everyone in the archives and the live lesson, I love you. Thanks. Until next time, good luck. Have fun.